So my name is Sharon Whiteman. Just for everybody that's listening live, we had a hiccup with the recording, and I've got a great community because they made sure I didn't go forward. So my name is Sharon Whiteman, and it's my great pleasure and privilege to be here with Dana Hunter and Gary Knapp. We bring this call to our community every week. And it blesses us, to be honest. We receive far more than what we contribute. Now, Dr. Steve Nugent is our guest today. He's Manitech's Chief Science Officer and Chairman of the Global Scientific Advisory Board. He has more than 40 years of experience in the area of integrative medicine. He has tested more than 6,000 dietary supplement products and formulated more than 100. He is internationally recognized as an expert in his field and has been teaching doctors for more than 30 years. He is Manitech's most requested speaker worldwide, and he's earned multiple degrees, graduating with top honors at both the undergraduate and graduate levels. His areas of study include integrative medicine, health and wellness psychology, leadership psychology, organizational psychology, neuropsychology, biological anthropology, nutrition science, business administration. Dr. Nugent has served as president of the International Association of Complementary Medicine and is president emeritus of the American Naturopathic Medical Association. He is a professional member of the American College of Nutrition, and he was also awarded the Servant's Heart Award by Manitech Associates in 2007. Dr. Nugent is one of Australasia's favorites. He carries the heart for the health, well-being, and education of all he meets. Dr. Nugent is passionate about giving the power of wellness back into the hands of everyday people. So you're going to want to listen really closely, take notes, and make sure you pass this on to everybody you know and love. So Dr. Nugent, second go. Thanks for being here today.
All right. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you very much. And hello, everybody. Good morning to everyone there in Australasia. Here in Texas, where, of course, is with what's going on right now, we're locked down, as you know. So here in Texas, it is early evening. I hope I don't lose the light. We're trying to keep enough light here for you, but most of this will be a slide presentation regardless. Now, Sharon asked me to do a presentation on women's health, and women's health is a lot more complicated than men's health. And there are aspects of men's health that I could actually complete in, 10 minutes, or perhaps less. But when it comes to women's health, wow, it's really complex. In fact, really, women's health could be 8 different webinars. It's that complicated. So what we're going to do this morning for all of you is to take a sort of broad overall look at important aspects of women's health. We're going to start with psychological health. We will talk about skeletal health. We will talk about reproductive and hormonal health. And that's a very broad, that could be 2 webinars all by itself. We'll talk about metabolic health as it relates specifically to women, anti-aging. There's some important factors there, skin health, and we'll also talk about immune health, because women have factors with immune health that are so different than most men. And of course, health is what I do. It's what Manitech does. It is my passion to help as many people as possible with their health. And obviously the majority of people I'll be helping on planet Earth are going to be women, because women have more issues. Now let's look at some of the basics here. Women are, without question, more complicated, both psychologically and biologically, than men. And it's above the obvious. You know, I had a lot of fun doing our webinar on a Saturday morning for you folks on men's health, because, you can kid around a lot about that, and there's just a lot of easy things to talk about. But for women, wow, it's big. Women tend to suffer with a greater variety and a greater intensity of health issues than men, with the exception of routine viral and bacterial infections, which I'll get to towards the end of this call. There's a place where women do extremely well, and they beat men hands down in that area. And I'll talk to you about that when we get to that point. You know, women have really complex hormonal systems. And I mean, most people acknowledge that, but I don't think a lot of people even understand just how complex it is. In, in fact, I used to make the joke when I was teaching medical doctors nutritional support for women's reproductive health. And I would start out by saying, docs, you know, no one has quite been able to figure out the female reproductive system and the hormones, whereas for the male system, it takes about 5 minutes. We've got it all worked out. So, I mean, it's really kind of that way. And, you know, there's a reason that the majority of people who buy dietary supplements are female. Part of it is because of the way women think versus the way men think. And I'm generalizing because I have to. Obviously, there's going to be exceptions. There will obviously be the exceptional male who's very tuned into health issues and nutrition, but it's not the norm. It's the exception, where it's quite the opposite with women. Women are very much interested in preventive health, procedures and nutrition and all that sort of thing, whereas men tend to wait till things go wrong and then, oh, maybe I better go to the doctor and get a pain med. Okay. So let's start this section with psychological, neurochemical. Neurochemical means brain chemistry, okay, and hormonal, because there's a tie-in with hormonal and both the neurochemical and the psychological. And when you talk about psychological, you can talk about things which are the old argument about nature versus nurture, okay? The most recent studies seem to indicate, because as you know, genetic science is progressing rapidly. Now, still, in my opinion, genetic science is in its infancy. I think we're going to find out just incredible amounts of new material in the near future. But still, genetic science is moving very fast, and they've learned a lot since it began back in 1953, so almost 67 years ago. What we know now is that, according to scientific researchers in this area, at least 50%, those are their words, not my words, their words, at least 50% of all behavior is genetic, not learned. That makes a lot of people uncomfortable, because some people think, you mean there's aspects of my behavior that I can't change? And the answer to that, honestly, is yes, there will be some aspects that cannot be changed. There are some psychologists who, and I know many of them, who really want to avoid hard sciences. They're more touchy-feely kind of folks, and they desperately want to believe that any behavior can be changed. And well, that's not what the science tells us. I'm a scientist. My job is to stick with science. And remember, the thing that I personally, and some of you have heard me say this before, the thing I personally love about science so much is that science is pure objectivity. It has no bias. It has no politics. It has no prejudice. It's simply facts. And I love that. It just, it's a place for you to go and rest your mind reading a science study versus watching politics on TV. Anyway, all right, so psychological, neurochemical, hormonal. Women are more than twice as likely to have psychological issues than men. Part of this is because of brain structure, because you remember when we did, if you were present when we did the presentation on men's health, and I talked significantly about differences between the male and female brains, the structure of each. The structure, of course, favors the production of certain chemicals, plus or minus, and it favors certain behaviors, plus or minus. So as an example, the empathy center in a woman's brain is much larger. It's far larger than it is in a man's brain. Now, again, I'm talking about averages. You will find a woman here and there whose brain is not structured like the average woman's brain. You will find a man here and there whose brain is not structured like the average man's brain. Okay, there are reasons for that, and we don't have time to go through all those particulars in this presentation and still get through it all today. So keep in mind then that about 50% of behaviors, at least according to genetic scientists, are genetic. Now, the other things are things that you learn. These are things that you're exposed to. And usually when I come to this topic, and I'm going to say a few things during this presentation, where some of you are going to have what I call a yeah, but moment, where you'll say, yeah, but I know somebody that doesn't do this, or yeah, but I know my sister this, and yeah, but I don't. Okay. Now remember, studies study broad groups of people, and you will find rare exceptions here and there. So stop the yeah, but thoughts and just stay with me as we go forward in this presentation. So you'll see that generally speaking, women have greater severity with their health issues than men do as well, with the exception of two areas which I will cover towards the end of this presentation. Brain chemistry in part responds to hormones, and the female hormone system is so complicated and changing constantly. I mean, it's changing even during an hour, it's changing. So you may have some hormonal responses that actually cause a woman to have various types of brain chemistry changes that can affect her behavior. And of course, you know, we in the past have used words like, you know, PMS and all that sort of thing. This is a reality. This is a reality because as the chemistry changes in the body, it doesn't always, but it can affect the chemistry of the brain, which then in fact can affect your behavior. So behavioral issues are going to happen to females more frequently than males. The severity is likely to be much more severe than men, and with a different sort of twist to it, which I'll cover in a few moments. Also, I want you to know that the new research on what's called the gut-brain axis is pretty impressive stuff. I've been reading some studies recently. Every day, I discipline myself to read at least 2 new scientific studies, 7 days a week, at least every day, 2 studies. And I do this in a meager attempt to just attempt to keep up with the changes in science. Right now, there are millions of studies. There's no way any of us can ever keep up. I mean, it can cause a computer to have a nervous breakdown just trying to index them. There's so many of them now. But I do the best I can. So what do we know about this? Apparently, there are genes in probiotic bacterium. So a bacterium is one bacteria. Bacteria are a colony or many, right? Okay. So there are genes inside of certain bacterium that have been studied so far. So far, there have been 3 probiotic strains of bacteria that have been studied. And these genes apparently are designed to send chemical signals to the brain back and forth, brain, gut, gut, brain, gut. It's fascinating stuff. So we're learning more about this, but we don't know enough about it yet. What we do know is that behavior, particularly behavior as it relates to being very happy or very sad, that this actually is connected, at least in part, to certain probiotic bacteria. Very, very interesting. So that's where the gut-brain axis comes in, and that could be a whole webinar all by itself. So I think you're getting the picture of why I'm saying it this way. There's just so much to discuss. So, you know, I did talk to you during the men's health presentation about structure and how it relates to behavior in both genders. And I talked to you a little bit about how this appears to be, and this is what scientists believe, and I'm not a specialist in evolutionary science or in evolutionary psychology. Those are not my areas of study. But according to these experts, they tell us that this is all about survival behavior, survival of the species. So you may recall when I talked about the fact that the portion of the brain that deals with you being able to judge trajectory, okay? So that's part of your visual spatial area of the brain. That part is, in almost every case in males, much larger than in females. Why would that be? Well, that's how you would judge when you're throwing a spear or shooting an arrow. That's how you would judge hitting the target. And this supports the idea that our early ancestors, the men were primarily hunters and warriors, and the females, because of what we know about female communication centers of the brain, the female communication centers are much larger in women on average than they are in men. In fact, females require communication and males tend to disdain communication, generally speaking. And if you look at this, you look at hunters as an example. If you've ever done hunting, now I haven't done any since I was a very young man because I just lost my taste for it a very long time ago. But when you're a hunter, you have to be quiet. You have to be silent. And if you're hunting with other men, you use hand signals and gestures. You don't talk. Now, if you are responsible for raising children, you have to communicate constantly. If you're responsible for trying to keep a community together, which is what women do, without women, there is no community. I'm sorry, guys, if this sounds like I'm continually putting down men, but I'm a guy, okay? I'm just saying the scientific facts. Community is because of women. Women make communities. Women nurture communities. Women continue communities. And they do this through communication, all right? And cooperation and so on. And empathy for each other, and the list goes on. So we won't belabor that too much. Okay. So let's look at one of the most common psychological issues that occurs for women. It is so common and it can be devastating, and that's depression. Now, if you're in a US website that relates to our company, you're going to see the word mood. Okay, so they'll say mood elevation or changing mood or something like that, because you can't say depression in the United States. Okay, all right. Anyway, if you're selling dietary supplements, you can't say that. So with this in mind, you're going to have this more than twice as often. Depression will occur to females as it does to males. And the depression in females is almost, not universally, but the vast majority of depression in females is chemical / hormonal, not situational. Let me explain the difference for you. And by the way, as I give you all this education up front, it's going to lead to dietary supplement recommendations for you. So for those of you who are saying, well, what supplements do I take? I'll get to that, all right? But let's get the basics out of the way first, okay? So situational depression would be, let's say that someone very close to you, someone you love, has passed away. That's a situation. You're likely to be depressed. You're likely to be very sad. And that sadness probably won't go away by virtually anything you do until you've been able to heal psychologically from that loss. So that's situational depression. Now in men, a common form of situational depression would be job loss, or not getting a promotion, or not being able to achieve whatever. So, so the weekend sports player, he goes out to play and he can't make it. He can't make the goal or whatever. He can't make the point. And he may become depressed because males their brains are very much achievement oriented, goal oriented. So the male brain has to do something, has to achieve something, or the male feels useless, worthless. And I'm not overstating this, but in the interest of time, I've got to use some very broad terms for this. So can the situation be remedied? Well, sometimes it can't be remedied. You simply have to heal psychologically from it. How do men and women deal with depression? Well, they deal with it differently in most cases, very differently, because men and women are different. Different in the structure of the brain, certainly. We'll talk about a few other differences as we proceed this morning as well. So women are more likely to have depression or sadness, as we'll say in the US and in many other countries, are more likely to feel sadness or more likely to feel their mood falling due to a chemical response or a hormonal response. Shifts in hormones can definitely affect a woman's mood. It can affect a man's mood as well, but not to the same extent. Not even to a tiny fraction of the same extent. So again, here's another situation where life is tougher for women than it is for men, and sometimes very significantly tougher. Okay, so all you men who are listening right now, pay attention, because there are times when the woman you love needs your understanding and your support, not your criticism or impatience. Okay, so pay attention, men. This is important. All right, so because of the brain structure, men and women are going to deal with this differently. How will a man deal with depression very often? Well, he might get mad because that's a testosterone response, anger. He might fall into some form of escapism. It could be alcohol abuse. It could be immersing himself in video games hour after hour, endless hour, or immersing himself in sporting events where he just won't get off the couch. He just eats and watches games hour after hour, but won't do anything else. Okay, so that might be how a man would deal with it. Women have a different situation because the structure of the female brain, both in terms of empathy and sympathy, are much larger in the female than in the male. And they feel much more emotional. And I'll even use this term, which I feel is apropos. Women will feel, again, on average, and men, I'm not saying that you don't feel this way ever, all right? But I'm saying that women will typically feel more emotional pain than men do in most cases. So again, this is general, all right? Okay. Hopefully I don't have too many people mad at me so far. I did a very brief presentation on female brain structure in the US, and I got a whole bunch of people mad at me because well, you're supposed to use this word or that word with politics today. This is politically correct and that's not. And folks, I'm a scientist. I don't know. I'm a scientist, okay? And I'm just going to state facts. And those of you who know me, you know my heart, and you know I just want to help everyone, okay? All right, again, pay attention. So for depression, or again, in the US, we would say sadness or lowering your mood, all right? You'll want to first do B vitamins. B vitamins are the most important thing you can possibly do. So B1, thiamine, B3, B6, B9, which is most often called either folate or folic acid. Folate is the natural form of B9. Folic acid is the synthetic form of B9, okay? But B9 and B12, the B vitamins that you're looking at on the screen right now, in some people, those B vitamins are more effective for elevating your mood than even drugs. Seriously. And this has been studied. In fact, there was a great study published on this in the British medical journal called Lancet. So B vitamins, I want you to have a lot of B vitamins, all right? And by the way, B vitamins are water soluble. So you're not going to overload on them. You're not going to go toxic on them. Just take them. Now, one thing, I'll just throw this in. It wasn't part of my presentation, but this always comes up because people will buy a B complex, or they'll buy, for instance, our Catalyst vitamin. And our Catalyst vitamin is very high in B vitamins. I did that on purpose when I made that. And this is part of the reason why I did it, what we're looking at right now. Vitamin B2, riboflavin, is got its name from an ancient Latin word which means yellow. Why? Because B2 is the only vitamin that is yellow. Now, if you have more B2 in your digestive tract than you can use during a given 2-hour period, guess what? Your urine will turn more yellow. Now, what people like to say, what they tend to believe, which is a myth, it's totally wrong. Oh, that means you're not absorbing your vitamins. No, it doesn't mean that at all. It means that your body had more B2 during a 2-hour period than it required. So it water-soluble vitamin, it urinated out that water-soluble vitamin that it didn't require during that 2-hour period. That's all it means. It means nothing else. Okay? So know that. Magnesium. Folks, I cannot talk to you enough about the importance of magnesium. More than 600 functions in the human body require magnesium. You cannot transport calcium ions to your bone without magnesium. You cannot convert vitamin D without magnesium. And I can go down the list for you. And yet, magnesium is something that is almost totally ignored by not just medical doctors, but by the nutritional community. Almost totally ignored. I have on my drnugent.com, which is a generic website. It's not a Manatech website. It has nothing commercial on it. Nothing is being sold. No products are referenced. So if you're an associate and you go there and you say, but where's the Manatech? There's no Manatech. It's not a Manatech site. All right. It is my private, personal, generic science website. And I am putting on a series of podcasts on magnesium and D3 and all of the aspects that they serve for your health. And there's going to be 6 of them. The first one was already posted, I think, 2 weeks ago. The one that's being posted today is on MSG, monosodium glutamate, but then it's going to go back to the series of magnesium and vitamin D3 podcasts to complete that series for you. You'll want to listen to those. They're very, very important. You'll learn a lot. So that's drnugent.com. And you can also find the links by going on the various social media by typing in the Nugent Report, because that's what it's called. Okay. So at Twitter, the Nugent Report at Twitter, the Nugent Report at Facebook, the Nugent Report at Instagram, all that stuff. Okay. So magnesium is crucial. You have to have it. You'll also need, for brain health, you're going to need omega-3 for the DHA. You're going to need vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. Now, we deliberately do not add vitamin K to our supplement because individuals who use a pharmaceutical called warfarin, which is a very, very common pharmaceutical. So any kind of blood thinning medication, warfarin, or even a lot of other blood thinners, vitamin K may interfere with that medication. So we deliberately do not add vitamin K. All right. So you can look up nutritional sources on the internet. You can buy yourself some vitamin K if you talk with your doctor about it. Because if you're on a blood thinner, there's something serious going on. Don't fool with it. Okay. Be careful. Safety first. So, of course, magnesium you will need, and also antioxidants. This is what you're going to require. You may have heard a doorbell ringing just now, and that's because I am locked down in my apartment and somebody just come to my door. I apologize for that. You can't control those things. All right, so our source for vitamins and minerals is going to be Catalyst. Catalyst is by far our most efficient source of both vitamins and minerals, very high in B vitamins. Now, we've had some governments who've looked at the levels of certain nutrients that I put in there, which were above the minimum, okay? And they say, oh no, we want everybody at the minimum. I don't want you at the minimum. I want you to have what you need. But so we've got a few governments that, for instance, South African government recently had us lower our magnesium level. That is one of the dumbest things I have ever seen in my entire career. One of the most important nutrients, a nutrient that people are, huge percentages of people worldwide are deficient in magnesium, and that government wanted to lower the magnesium level. That was just dumb. Anyway, if you happen to look at a supplement and you look at the U.S. product on the U.S. website and it has the same name in your country, and you see that there's some nutrient which is different in its milligrams or micrograms, it's because the government said that's the way they wanted it. All right, so just so you don't have to email on me on that, all right? So Catalyst by far is the best. Ambertose. Because ambertose, everybody thinks about ambertose as an immune support product. Every time somebody has an immune question, they come to Manatech thinking ambertose is the solution. And then they ask me about their immune challenge. How much ambertose should I take, they say. And then, of course, I have a more complicated conversation with them. Ambertose has 7 brain studies. Most of the products that claim to be brain products don't have any studies at all. What they do is they'll take a single ingredient that's been studied and they'll put it into their total complex. And then they'll say, our product is great because we've got this one ingredient that had a study on it. But we've actually studied ambertose for brain function in 7 different studies. We know that it helps to improve memory. We know it helps with mood. We know that it helps with attention. We know it helps with cognitive function, and the list goes on. Okay, so ambertose, always. Plus is perhaps the most extraordinary and one of the simplest at the same time. You know, Da Vinci once, and I'll paraphrase, I don't remember the precise quote, but I think he said, simplicity is the key to elegance, or something to that effect. But he was right. Plus is a very simple formula, and yet it's a very elegant formula. What it does to support the reproductive system is pretty darn astounding. I mean, it really is. It was Manatech's first product that was made, well, back in 1993, rolled out in 1994. It still remains. All of the science that we've done, more than 50 million US dollars of scientific research that we've done, all the new technology and products that we've come up with, and always, every single month for 25 years, Plus is always in the top 5 sellers. We almost never talk about it. We almost never promote it because we don't have to. You take it, you feel great. You stop taking it, you don't feel great. I mean, it's that simple. And this is particularly true if you're female. Now, males feel less of an effect with it. However, males need to note that the prostate gland, which of course is unique to us guys, requires hormonal support in the form of a plant sterol, which is called beta-sitosterol, which happens to be in Plus. I use Plus every day to support my prostate health, okay? And I recommend that for all men. Women, however, are going to have a much more dramatic feeling and change and support from Plus. In fact, I like to say to our associates, if you want to get somebody into the Manatech family, just give them some Plus. At the end of that bottle, they're going to want another bottle of Plus. There's no question. They're just going to want one because it does support the hormonal system that well. Omega-3 provides you with both EPA and DHA. Your brain requires DHA, and it requires DHA in a huge amount. Even pregnant women, even the fetus requires DHA. So DHA is literally required from the earliest part of life throughout your entire life. It's very, very important for brain health. And of course, you'll want to have ambertose AO, your antioxidant. That's also very important here. And I can do a whole hour on AO, but I'll just say this to you. We did 3 different human double-blind studies. We know from these studies that as tested using serum ORAC, that's blood, that's a blood test, okay? Not the flashing lights and the chemical reagents that make your stuff glow and all that other nonsense. I'm talking about real science. You want to know what goes on in human blood? Well, what should you do? Well, I don't know. Maybe you should test human blood. Wow, what a concept. Our competitors don't do that because it's too expensive and they know their products would fail anyway. And we know that too from our testing. The best antioxidant on planet Earth as tested by serum ORAC is Manatech's ambertose AO for antioxidant. okay? And by the way, it's not an ambertose replacement. So I hate the fact that they named it ambertose AO, but that's the way it is. And of course, the GI Pro Balance for your probiotics, and that is for a gut-brain axis. GI Defense is a new product which I hope will be coming to Australasia. I'm sure it will eventually, unless the Australian TGA has some objection. I can't imagine that they would, but then I shouldn't try and second guess a regulator, should I? Anyway, that is going to be hugely important for the gut-brain axis and a number of other things. I did a video for that for the North American Manifest, which has been recorded. You can find that in allaboutmanatech.com along with a bunch of other recordings that I've done, okay? All right, let's talk about muscular and skeletal and metabolic. Boy, the time's clicking away a lot faster than I expected. I hope I can squeeze all this in here. There's just a lot to talk about when you're talking about women's health. Okay. Well, a study which was published actually did some measurements on a wide range of males and females, and they came out with an average of 12 kilograms difference in muscle mass in men versus women. So, I mean, it should be obvious, but just so that everyone knows, there is a very significant difference in musculature between men and women. Women also, according to the study, had 40% less upper body strength and 33% less lower body strength on average than men. This again supports, again, I'm not an expert in evolutionary psychology or any of that. Those are not my areas of study. But according to the scientists who say that this is all about survival of the species, it tends to support the argument that men were really designed as hunters and warriors and protectors. And when we look at some of the aspects of female anatomy, brain anatomy, and so on, it really looks as though it really supports the argument that women are the key to communities and nurturing and just everything that makes a society succeed other than hunting and fighting. Okay. Sorry, guys. I know it sounds like I'm putting down my own gender again. I'm just stating the facts. All right. We do have value. Men do have some values. All right. So don't get depressed. Don't have situational depression now, men, because we can't deal with that on this call. Okay. So conclusion, women need less protein than men. All right. This goes to digestion then. So men need, on average, 56 grams of protein daily minimum, and this varies with the amount of muscle that the man has. The more muscle he has, the more protein he has to eat to maintain the muscle. And I won't get into all those details right now. Women, on average, have to have at least 46 grams. Now, ladies, remember that you have to have enough protein to maintain proper bone density. So make sure that you are getting enough protein, even though women tend to be more alkaline than men. And because they tend to be more alkaline, they tend to more frequently complain about digesting meat than men. They tend to crave meat less than men. And when a woman craves protein, they tend to crave the proteins that are either very easy to digest or proteins that are very high in fat. So for instance, a man might want, and I'm just throwing out an example here, a man might want a steak. And if a woman's given the option of having a prime rib or a steak, she may want to go for the prime rib. Now it's still beef, but the prime rib is very fatty. And of course, estrogen likes fat. So ladies, we'll talk about this under the heading of metabolic, but estrogen attracts fat. This is one of the reasons that women have so much difficulty losing body fat, because your primary hormones are attracting fat, and they're actually making you want to, as a human being, they make you want to go eat stuff that has fat. Okay. And again, that won't be 100% of all females. So let's not go into that, but it will be the general. All right. So before we started this whole anti-cholesterol thing, which By the way, most of it is wrong. Now, the new science has proven most of it's wrong, but most doctors still don't know. The media still doesn't know, and the public still doesn't know. Even though there have been at least 15 studies that have disproven the whole cholesterol thing, we've still got people doing the wrong thing. And that's been going on for 60 years. All right. But before that, before people were told, oh, don't eat meat because it'll give you heart disease. All right. Before people were told that nonsense, and it has been proven to be nonsense, by the way. But before they were told that, if you had a man and a woman go to a restaurant together and they were offered, let's say, roast beef and, I don't know, prawn, then the female would more likely choose the prawn and the male would more likely choose the roast beef. Why? Because the male has a more acidic system and he has a higher craving for protein, and females have a harder time digesting heavy proteins, beef being one of the most difficult things to digest. Whereas, you know, a nice fillet of fish, or in Australasia, you say fillet of fish. It's a French word, by the way. It's not an English word, but we won't get into all that. So it's easier to digest the seafood than it is to digest the meat. It's much, much easier. And of course, women have more metabolic issues. Women have more thyroid issues. Thyroid requires iodine. Seafood is rich in iodine, where land food contains little or none, the land animals. So again, women will tend to crave more frequently the seafood because the iodine can help stimulate their thyroids and help to stimulate their metabolism, okay? But women also, all things being equal, tend to have more bloating after they eat than men do. Now, this is largely about digestive enzymes. In most of the cases, if you bloat after you eat, or if you have discomfort after you eat a particular food, so you get cramping, bloating, you know, just general discomfort, it's almost always about digestive enzymes. Now, you can get some help from probiotic bacteria that can help you with some level of digestion in the gut, but the digestion should begin with enzymes first in the stomach. I don't think that we've got an enzyme product. Manatech has an enzyme product in Australasia, something to do with the TGA. I'm not sure what it is. We have an extraordinary and unique digestive enzyme formula. It's not dead common like everybody else's, because I won't make a dead common formula. Just won't do it. What's the point, right? You can buy dead common at the discount store, okay? So you can find digestive enzyme products, I'm sure, in Australasia if we don't have it in the inventory there. But again, probiotic may assist to some degree with certain levels of digestion. So that's important information. All right, so men are testosterone primary and women are estrogen primary. Most people know this. Testosterone actually builds muscle. In fact, if a male has a certain level of testosterone, a certain level above normal, that man can actually build muscle doing absolutely nothing. I mean, nothing. Muscle just builds because of the testosterone. Muscle also works as a fat burning factory. The more muscle you have, the more fat you burn without doing physical activity, without doing any exercise. So why do women have to struggle so much with losing body fat? This is a big part of it. Remember, the average woman has 12 kilograms less muscle than the average man. So you already have that working against you, ladies, when you're trying to, keep your figures trim and keep your body fat down. You've got a lot working against you because estrogen likes fat. It's just attracting fat. It even wants to tell you to do things to get fat. So it's not fair. It's just not fair. But it is the way it is, and that's why women have so much more trouble losing body fat than men do. It's just a lot more of a struggle. And I know and I hear from a lot of couples where the wife will say, I can't understand, my husband lost X number of kilos. I can't lose a kilo and we're both doing the same thing. Well, sorry, you're going to have to do more than he does. And that's just a fact. So we have the True Health System at Manatech to help you with that. Plus, of course, to keep those hormones at a healthy, balanced level. And Catalyst. Catalyst has a number of metabolic factors in it that can actually help you to more successfully convert stored body fat into energy. Everyone says burn fat. You don't actually burn fat. Okay, I mean, that would be painful if you think about it. But you convert fat into energy. So that's the way that works. So when it comes to bone density, a lot of this has to do with, again, the female hormone system versus the male hormone system. To be clear, men, listen carefully, men, you can get osteoporosis too. In fact, you almost certainly will if you live long enough and you don't take care of yourself. But for men, it's a much slower process. For women, unfortunately, it works pretty fast. And again, primarily because of estrogen. So primarily because of your balance. So all ladies have been told for as long as I've been in this field, more than 40 years, calcium, calcium, calcium. Women need more calcium. Some women's diets are very high in calcium. I mean, some women are getting a bunch of calcium already. Well, then what's wrong? It is true that osteoporosis is a leaching of calcium from the bone. This is true. But the problem is usually either magnesium or vitamin D, not calcium. You need magnesium to transport calcium ions and potassium ions. You need magnesium to convert vitamin D. And if you don't have enough magnesium and you keep loading in more calcium, what's going to happen is that calcium, some of it will urinate out, but a lot of it will form deposits in your body. It can form deposits in your arteries. It can form kidney stones. It can even form deposits in your brain. So don't just take a calcium supplement. If you're going to supplement calcium, first of all, make sure that you actually need it, because you may not need it. You may take a blood test and find out that your calcium's okay, but your vitamin D is too low or your magnesium is too low. And the only way to know if your magnesium is too low is not to do a serum magnesium test. And by the way, very few doctors know this. You have to do a test called red blood cell magnesium. So RBC mag, all right, red blood cell magnesium. Why? Magnesium is an intracellular mineral. It only works when it's inside of a cell. It doesn't do anything floating around in the blood, which is why only 1% of the total of your body's magnesium is going to be found in your blood. 1%. The rest of the magnesium is in your bone and in your tissue. So if you test serum magnesium, blood magnesium, you're only getting a look at 1% of your total. You don't know if there's enough magnesium in your other cells. So this is important stuff, that you get a proper magnesium test. Very often the doctor will have no idea why you want to do an RBC mag, because he or she has been told serum magnesium works. Well, it doesn't. It's not accurate, okay? So in addition, for muscular skeletal health, you're going to need vitamins A, C, B12, and vitamin K. Once again, we don't put K in our supplements because it can be a problem with blood thinning medications, and that's something you have to work out between you and your doctor. But B12, A, and C, we've got lots of that in Catalyst. You also need potassium, phosphorus, zinc, manganese, boron, and silica. Those are all necessary for healthy bones. And again, potassium ions cannot transport without magnesium. Right now, in fact, I looked at a study just a couple of days ago. Magnesium deficiencies in some countries are just getting ridiculous. I mean, they're just unbelievably ridiculous. It seems that human beings only absorb, and this is from a new study, only absorb about 30% of the mineral from vegetables that they eat. This is not good news. And then we talk about meal preparations of various types where you lose even more nutrition. So you think you're eating something that's giving you 50 milligrams of magnesium, and you find out, well, no, I could only absorb about 30% of that. Why? Because humans are not efficient in digesting vegetable fiber. And most of the nutrition is locked inside of the fiber. Okay. So make sure you have enough magnesium. Take your catalyst. Calcium, potassium, vitamin D, all require magnesium for function, don't forget. And if you're using a blood thinning medication, warfarin particularly, but any kind of blood thinning medication, do not supplement vitamin K containing foods or vitamin K until you've had a talk with your prescribing physician. Very, very important. Immune health. Well, again, ladies, I'm sorry that you suffer more in this area than men do. It seems that with autoimmune problems, that means immune problems where the immune system, I don't know if I'm showing up on camera if just my slides are. I don't know if I've got that little thing in the corner. But if you can imagine normal, so normal level of immune function where things are good, they are where they're supposed to be. It's not too weak, it's not too high, it's just right. Or what scientists, they now like to use the term Goldilocks. It's the Goldilocks level, okay? Now, autoimmune means that your immune system is attacking itself for various reasons, and that your immune system has gone way above normal levels. Most women suffer from autoimmune problems. Very few women suffer from immune problems. So an immune problem means that your immune system is too weak, too low to actually come up high enough to deal with having normal immune function. There are some women, unfortunately, who have both problems, where they have some autoimmune disorder, and autoimmune disorders are very common in women, very, very rare in men, really rare in men. I mean, they happen, but almost never. And scientists believe that estrogen is somehow involved in this process, but we won't get into details on all that right now. So what we want you to do is if your immune system is too high, we want it to come down to normal. If it's too low, we want it to go up to normal. That's called immune modulation. So we don't want immune boosting. That's not what you want. You don't want immune suppression. It's not what you want. Because if you suppress the immune system, you leave yourself open to infection. What you want is immune modulation, immune balance. And I'll show you the immune balancer in just a moment. Now here's a plus. Ladies, I've given you all these negatives about your health, but here's a big plus for you. Women have much stronger immune systems against viral infection and bacterial infection than men do. Much. Ladies, how often, those of you, any ladies who have a male mate, whatever term we're going to use these days, you've probably seen that male, and those of you who don't have a male mate, maybe you've seen your father or your brother or somebody that's, you as a woman, you get a virus and you soldier on. But the guy gets a virus, he's flat on his back. And he's gone from being the big macho guy to kind of being a sniveling little baby about the virus. Okay, that's my old Marine thing coming back on me. I apologize for that. So guys, again, it's just the way it is. Ladies have a stronger immune system against virus and bacteria. According to the scientists who study in this area, they say it's about survival of the species. They say that women have to take care of little kids. Men can be out hunting and killing other guys, but women are taking care of children in the community. You got all these people all together rather than out in the fresh open air, right? And the little kids are sick all the time. Well, mom can't be flat on her back if the kids are sick. She's got to have a strong immune system against virus and bacteria. And by golly, most women do. So that's a real plus for the ladies. So I recommend either ambertose complex or Manopol as our glycans to modulate or balance the immune system. I do not recommend, and I'm not sure if you folks have Ambertose Life in the Australasian market at this time, because we have so many markets, it's hard for me to keep track who's got what, where, and when.
Yes, we do, Dr. Nugent.
Oh, you do? Okay. Ambertose Life contains one item which is called Wakami. And in fact, it's made in Tasmania. That's where that particular product is made. Wakami has a lot of benefits, but sometimes people who have autoimmune problems or high immune problems, when they use Wakami, their autoimmune disorder gets worse. Their symptoms get worse. I don't know who that will be because I have no psychic ability that I'm aware of. So I can't tell I can't look in the future and say it will for you and it will for you. So I just say across the board, if you're a woman, I would, and you have autoimmune issues or high immune issues, then you'll want to look at Ambertose Complex or Manipul, not Life. Okay. And Catalyst, of course, on my website, drnugent.com, the Nugent Report, you're going to find a podcast. Oh, gosh, I lose track now. Podcast or a blog. It's one of those two. But it talks about how the immune system works and very basics. In fact, I think I call it immune system basics. So the 5 steps of immune function and which vitamins are required and so on. And you'll learn some stuff there. So I recommend you go there. Catalyst gives you those vitamins and minerals that you need, those cofactors that you need for immune function. And of course, Immunostart, which was specifically designed by Manitech for immune support. That's its purpose in life. That's its function, immune support. So, and I very strongly recommend Immunostart whenever you're feeling a bit under the weather or someone in your family is, then you should be taking it. And I like to recommend that every household has a bottle anyway, particularly if you have kids, but because kids are just always picking up something, aren't they? I know, because I'm a dad. I was there. Okay. Of course, that was, I don't know, 2 or 3 centuries ago, it seems like. But anyway, and for skin, and I know we've gone a little bit over time, but we promised we'd talk about the whole thing. So let me do this very briefly. For skin health, it's pretty simple. It's pretty basic. And I've done some presentations already on our youth system. I encourage you to go watch the videos on it and learn from it. Our youth system is unique and extraordinary for skin health. And the skin is your largest organ of your body. So you may want to think about that. Catalyst, because you need certain vitamins and minerals for skin health as well. And of course, Ambertose AO, because if you're concerned about the aging of your skin, and more ladies are than men, and again, I think that's just our brain structures, but you want the best antioxidant, because antioxidants help you fight the aging process. And so you'll definitely want that. So I'm going to stop the screen share and go back to you and apologize for going a bit over time here, but I didn't know if I could squeeze it all in there.
You'd be hilarious comments, Dr. Nugent, plus millions of comments of gratitude and how amazing it was, which it was. You're so in your heart for us, and we can feel it, and we're so grateful. One clarification. Did you say that we're allowed to use the term depression in regards to our products or technology or plus in Australia? Or
yeah, I'm not sure of that. I would err on the side of caution and say no.
Okay.
I these days I'm so busy, I just defer to the regulatory people all the time.
Yeah, I can understand. It's a bit of a moving target too.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, Gary is real super, and both of you guys are real super with editing. And so I also gave you I used the word mood right after that. So if you want to just cut out the word depression, then you've got just mood elevation, mood suppression.
No worries. So, and for any of you that are new to this information, what we're talking about is the regulatory environment in regards to natural medicine and what we can say. And it's actually different in every country. So it's a bit of it's a PhD kind of permanent topic, in my opinion. So just be general that, or read the comments on the brochure. So Dr. Nugent, God bless you. I'll reach out for another appointment in about 6 weeks or so, and we'll look forward to having you as our guest again.
All right, great. Glad to do it. I hope everybody got something good out of this.
All right. And for everybody else, we're talking everything wellness and women with personal stories next weekend. So if anybody missed this, they can hear the recording, but they can also learn more from some of our community. So thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.